Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Our May 16th primary election is coming up. Democrats and Republicans will vote for judges, school directors, and county, township, borough, and city officials. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. To check your voting status, go to votepa.gov. That's vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is May 1st. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 9th. The League is interviewing those candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and the same amount of time to answer them.
Hello, I'm Kay Herring, a member of the League of Women Voters of Berks County. 5 candidates are competing for a chance to be magisterial district judge in Berks, District 23302. That area includes Earl, Douglas, Colebrookdale, Washington, and Hereford Townships, and Boyertown, Bechtelsville, and Valley. 4 candidates are cross-filed, which means they are on the ballot for both the Democrat and Republican Party. They are Rick Drumheller, Charles Madonna, Andrew Mathias, and Robert Hawes. David Schott will be on the Republican ballot only. Voters in each party will select one to be on the fall ballot. The magisterial district judge handles traffic violations, landlord-tenant matters, and civil actions where the amount claimed is less than $12,000. The judge presides at arraignments, sets bail, issues warrants, and performs duties of a similar nature. The term is 6 years, and the salary in 2023 is $106,245. Please note that the opinions expressed in this interview are those of the candidate and are not the opinions of the League of Women Voters or Berks Community Television. This interview is with Robert Hawes. Welcome.
Hi.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this position.
I'm seeking the position as judge because I was a lifelong resident of the Boyertown community. I've actually been in education for 30-some years. I think it's time that the judgeship should actually have someone from the community. I am not a police officer. I'm actually looking to represent the people of the area. I've had experience representing the people of the area in both Region 1 and Region 2 of the boroughs and townships that were previously read for the Boyertown School District. So I know what it's like to be a leader, and I know what it's like to make important decisions for the community. And they also added Hereford Township, which is actually part of the Upper Perkiomen School District, to this area. So I'm looking for your vote coming up here in this primary for me actually to take the position of District Justice.
Thank you. Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about your education specifically, or more about your background and what you bring to the position?
Thank you. Yes, sure. I actually have 4 different degrees. I have a degree in economics from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I have a master's degree in economics and entrepreneurship from the University of Delaware. That actually was a scholarship that I received to go to the University of Delaware. My certifications include focus on schools. My first certification was from Kutztown University, and that certification was teaching secondary social studies. My second certification was actually with Penn State University. That was the certification so I could be an administrator K through 12. As you can see, my background includes a lot of different learning in a lot of different areas. I'm actually able to adapt and learn different concepts and ideas so I can be able to provide education to the bench. And that's what I'm looking for.
What personal qualities do you have that would help you be an effective district judge?
An effective district judge really needs to be impartial. You can't have partiality involved in the district judge position. It's actually, I've been in the district for all my life, and I haven't had, I'm running all with my own money, my own campaign. I'm not forming a committee or anything like that so that I wouldn't be impartial to anybody who would be giving gifts or anything like that. I think it's important that you have integrity, and I've been able to prove that for the last almost 60 years living in that area. So I would be able to do that. Plus, being a teacher then for 30 some years is also important, because I've also been able to give an example to students for their future and participation in the government.
Great. Can you tell us about the area that the district serves, the communities and the townships?
The communities and townships, it's actually like Boyertown has a perfect area with a better Boyertown borough. People are so proud of their area, which is I think it's fantastic that people can be proud of their township. Everything is promoted from in the township. We have a mix of population. It's actually has been changing from elderly to people to new people moving into the district and the area. Most of the area is actually, before it used to be most farmlands. Now it's not as many farmlands, but the actual area is dealing with livable areas and homesteads and different housing developments.
Okay. Are you involved in community or volunteer work? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I was actually involved heavily with Boyertown Friendship Hook and Ladder. I was an officer in the club, and that meant that I was actually making decisions for how the club would operate and move on from there. From that, I transferred. I didn't give up my positions within the club, but what happens was I actually moved into the apparatus area. And when I was in the apparatus area, I was actually trained as a firefighter for the National Fire Association for Pennsylvania, and nationally qualified. Those years were 10 years of also doing firefighting plus medical calls and also vehicle rescue calls. So that was a big contribution to the community. People in the fire service really need all the support that they can have.
Okay, thank you, Robert. As a district judge, you will deal with matters of civil law and criminal law. Please explain the difference and give us some examples of each.
Oh, surely. So, and when you're looking at criminal law and civil law, both of them are written laws in court. Excuse me, but criminal law is where they would actually commit a crime or be accused of committing a crime. Those crimes would actually be stated in the law and furthermore looked at and have outcomes and results to them. Civil law is a little different because of the difference in what they have to provide you. Now, evidence tells a big difference between criminal law and civil law. In criminal law, you have to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. In civil law, the proof that becomes the burden of the preponderance of evidence. So it doesn't have to be beyond reasonable doubt, but it has to be with preponderance of evidence. The example I used to always use in a classroom was the idea that if your brother stole the cookie, you would see him, you'd see his face, and you would see that he has cookie crumbs all over it, but that's not enough to say that he stole a cookie. You could see there's cookie marks all the way down his shirt. Again, not enough. But if you would be able to take fingerprints from the cookie jar, then you know he actually stole the cookie. The last example with the fingerprints, that would be beyond a reasonable doubt. Just excuse me.
Take your time. So the next two questions are about, you were talking about civil law and criminal law, but what is the district judge's role in handling criminal issues?
The district justice role in criminal issues actually sees if the state police officers will present a case to the district office and the defendant. These could be cases of criminal nature, minor natures, traffic violations, things that would be handled in the borough. Also, the difference there is civil law. You're not going to necessarily, civil law is going to usually be between two people, a plaintiff and a defendant.
And then with a civil issue, if you could explain what the role is of the district judge in a civil issue case.
The civil issue case is the case where we're talking about preponderance of evidence. So the district justice would actually have to examine and listen to the evidence presented by both cases and determine to see if that evidence was strong enough to go ahead and give a verdict. That will actually be determined in the courtroom of what is presented by both the cases. Again, you're going to have a defendant and you're going to have a plaintiff. The plaintiff is going to be the person who's looking to seek some kind of judgment from the defendant.
Okay. And a district judge decides whether there is sufficient evidence for a criminal case to go to trial. What will you consider when making this decision?
There actually has to be a validity of all the evidence so that when the evidence is not only one, first step is how it was collected, two, then how it was presented, so that it's fair to take that evidence into court and use that evidence according to whatever crimes or if it's a contractual agreement violations. But it's really important to have that evidence validated, and that has to be validated in front of the judge. And the judge would have to know the difference.
Okay. A district judge sets bail. What criteria will you use to decide whether bail is needed? And what criteria will you use to determine how high bail should be?
There's a whole different setup in bail criteria. Some of the bail criteria will actually be determined by the law, and it'll determine if a bail is even being able to be set. The background of the district justice would be able to know if the person's actually would be considered to be a flight risk. You would use things like how long they've been established and as a resident, how long they've been in the area, you know, if they have family in the area. There's a lot of things to go into that and establishing the bail. Also, you have to include what the severity of the crime was to begin with.
And then the criteria about how high the bail should be, what the dollar amount is of bail?
That dollar amount is actually almost a punitive way in showing that the higher the dollar amount will actually be a situation where it's also related to the act and the crime that the person was convicted for.
Are there any community problems the district judge can help alleviate?
Just making sure that showing that they're a good citizen. The district justice actually would provide different things for the community and services. You could actually be wedded at the district justice office. There's swearing-in ceremonies that the district justice can complete for officials. It's just showing a good example for the district justice position.
As a member of the judiciary, what can you do, both on and off the bench, to ensure that all Pennsylvanians have access to the courts?
It's really important for people to get the knowledge out. There are different organizations that are really helping getting knowledge out to the people. Everybody would have access to the courts. The court office is currently located in Boyertown and is easily accessible to people. The court system itself is open and willing to accept all different types of challenges.
Is there anything that you see yourself doing to increase that access, or is there something you feel that might be needed?
I think not only the access, but I also want to know that the people can feel comfortable coming to me. And that goes back to my education. It goes back to my lifelong residence of the area. And my education includes many, I've taken criminal law, contract law, banking law. I also have taken courses that deal just with educational law. But the important part is that I'm not a police officer, and I think that will actually help people draw them into the office.
Okay, great. What is the importance of this position? We've talked a lot about some of the different criteria you will use and some of the duties of the position, but if you can talk about why it's important and why should it matter to the average voter that it's important for them to vote, for this position.
This position is actually crucial. This position actually will be a 6-year term, which is one of the longest terms we have set up in government. It is actually from the area. The person who is elected to this position is from the area and is a lifelong resident. It's a crucial position because people actually would have to look for guidance and fairness from the bench. And that's what I'm intending to provide.
Okay. And we have some time that you can make a closing statement. Are there other topics you would like to touch on about yourself or what you would do in this position as district judge?
I would like to continue with that last question. I mean, it's very important that people understand who the judge is. And I'm a person who is a lifelong resident. I've already ran for school director for a number of times, asking the people to vote and have their leadership. At that time, I actually wrote with a dedicated voice of the people. I've never moved away except for college. I've been here in the community working for the volunteer. As a volunteer firefighter, that took some different energy, not only physical, but also mental, to learn the different steps and processes. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that vote for a person who wants to have an equal and fair person on the bench and in the community. I have been in the community all my life, and I'm looking forward to serve the community as a district justice.
Okay, thank you, Robert Hawes, for sharing your views with us. I would just like to remind viewers that there are many candidates for magisterial district judge in Berks District 230302 on the Democratic and the Republican ballots. They include Rick Drumheller, Charlie Madonna, Andrew Mathias, Robert Hawes, who you've just heard from, and David C. Schott. You vote for one. I'd also like to give you some information about where to go and to get voter information in your area. If you go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org. That's vote411.org. When you get to that website, all you have to do is type in your address. It will show you everyone on your particular ballot, along with information the candidates have provided. Vote 411 is safe. It does not store your address. Please be prepared when you go to vote. Use vote411.org. Vote at your primary election coming up. And we'd like to thank you for watching Candidates Upfront.
You will find the Candidates Upfront interviews on BCTV and on its website and its YouTube page. And for more information on candidates, you can go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org, Or you can contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com. Their phone number is 610-478-6490. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.